Welcome back to A Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and this afternoon I'm here to try and unpack that draw with Kilmarnock with Kevin McCluskey. Kevin, here we go. Ian Roy, where's your confident mentality now? Last few days, he was bragging. It took a certain mentality to go top. And you reckon that I need to admit that we've not got what it takes, Ian? I mean, going into this game, Kevin, I don't think there was any reason not to be confident. You know, top of the league. We had a job to do today and we've not done it. Simple as that. Certainly nothing to do with my mentality. I think you've got to question the players on the park. You've got to question why in that second half we were a shadow even of the side in the first half, Kevin. And we've spoken about this all season. You and I have done the vast majority of the games, Kevin. I keep going on about Jekyll and Hyde, you know, at half time. We said, hopefully we don't see that, but we did. And we don't deserve anything more than a draw from that game.
We've got absolutely everything we deserve from that game. Probably in the balance of chances in the second half, we got a little bit more out of the game than we should have because, again, Kilmarnock have got the second half hex on us for some reason. We created a couple of half chances, O'Reilly, Bernardo, but the best chances in that half were Kilmarnock's. One Donnelly's header, Armstrong's, one at the back post, the goal, and then the shot right at the very end. They created more chances, they created better chances. Yeah, that's a terrible second half performance, and it's not the first time that this has happened this season. It's not the first time it's happened against Kilmarnock. It's a tough one to come on after that, I'll tell you, to try and talk through it or try and I don't know, have any sort of positive vibe about this one. I think certainly before the game, though, we had every right to be positive. We all know, and we've done most of the shows, so there's no one here going to come on and try and say that the football we've been playing this season's been great. We've been to the kind of, who would we call it, the loudest kind of, not advocates of the performance, the exact opposite of advocates of our performance, detractors of our performances this season, because we know that we've played within ourselves. We haven't produced the performances that we can, but when you keep on winning, you do have a bit of confidence that going into the next game, you can do it. First half performance gave you a lot of confidence that this was going to be one of those games that we would go on and win, maybe not overly comfortably, but we would get the win. It would be 3 points in the bag. And we've shot ourselves in the foot again with just a really lethargic second half performance.
The thing is, Kev, after the game, directly after the game, there is emotion that runs wild when you're supporting a team, and we've actually thrown it away throughout that second half. I'm trying to unpack it. This is the thing, because you get a lot of comments because of the frustration and the emotion of it. Weak, says David McVeigh. Craig McMicken, utter disgrace. Utterly unacceptable, says some mad random person. But what we try to do is figure out why, because I don't disagree with any of these comments, but trying to figure out why it was an absolute shambles, Bert, and try and pinpoint the reasons that the performance went really, really awry in the second half. Terence, Pat, if you're going to make a statement, back it up. Nodding yes, man. Never criticises Rodgers. Absolute nonsense, pal. Nonsense. Okay. So if you're going to make a statement, make sure it's factual, because every single time we have been poor this season, it's been called out after the game and during the week in the matchday bulletins. I would suggest, Terence, that you look at the side and you give me a reason why we didn't win the game today, rather than try to look at other fans and have a go at other fans who speak about the games. Give me a factual reason why what you've said there is true. And also come back to me, Terence, with a reason, in your opinion, as to why we didn't win that game today, particularly when you're at half-time at nothing each, because it's fine coming on and saying it's a shambles or it was unacceptable, but you need to try and figure out why. And I think that at half-time, Kev, he's hooked Palma, who, if you were looking at the half-time bulletin, is the player who was getting more criticism than any other. And by the way, rightly so. He was really, really poor in the first half. He gets hooked at half-time. And I'm looking at that and thinking, fair play, that's ruthless. And Brendan Rodgers has done that a number of times this season. He's done it with the wingers quite a few times. Remember Yang got hooked at half-time. I think it was against Motherwell. So I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, fair play. You've got to do that. But whoever's replacing him has to be better. It has to be more incisive. It has to be more direct. It has to be more creative. And you've got to ask yourself the question, was he? Was Palmer? Because I'm seeing him, he was more, Yang was more direct maybe in the second half, but he didn't create much. I didn't see him creating anything. There was a really strange moment in that the first passage of play in the second half, right? 54 minutes on the clock. We're not even 10 minutes into the second half, Kev, right? And Yang's got the ball and he doesn't want to drive forward. And he passes it to Matt O'Reilly, who doesn't want to drive forward either. And then they both look over to Callum McGregor, who's just static. He's not looking to drive forward. And I'm thinking at 54 minutes, what's going on there? It was a really strange passage of play. We just didn't have the same rhythm in the second half. 5 minutes after that moment, we take off Greg Taylor, and I think we lost it there as well. Bernabe comes on. Listen, you can try and be as positive as you can about the player. If you take off Greg Taylor and put on Bernabe, there's a huge drop in quality, Kev. And our rhythm was way off from that moment forth. We then changed back to our 4-3-3 shape. We become predictable again. We create even less than we have been doing. And for me, we just never got into the game. Kilmarnock, I think, created a couple of chances that, they let us off at the back. There was a let off at the back post. There was a really, really good save by Joe Hart. And it was almost inevitable that they would get the equaliser. At 90 minutes where the 5 minutes added on was announced, Kev, I thought to myself, if we score a goal, if we let in a goal here, we're in trouble because we're not coming back into it. We've not shown enough in the second half. You can't just flick the switch and get back into a rhythm. We've been off it all second half. And if Kilmarnock scored, they were going to get something out of the game. And so it was proved.
It's interesting that you say what you said there, was it like 57 minutes or so you'd noticed, or 54 minutes, whatever it was, sorry, Yang cutting inside rather than taking his man on, and then O'Reilly doing the same thing. I'd actually got an opposite note from just 2 minutes before, where Yang had actually looked that he was willing to take his man on. But that's how quickly we've changed within the game. Yang's first few involvements in the game, I thought he looked like he was trying to take his man on. He was wanting to commit his defender. But that's only like 52 minutes. After that, I don't have a positive note about him. I don't think he did take his man on after that. Kuhn did a couple of times when he came on. But it's very strange, and it is difficult to unpack as to why it's happening. Because the first half performance, if we keep to that level in the second half, we will win the game. It will be fairly straightforward for us. But there is something that when we come out in the second half, the players seem to switch off a little bit. I don't know if it's something that's, they're not getting the right messaging at half time. Maybe they've been told, oh, we've got this game, lads, it's easy. And they're coming out with that mentality rather than we need to go and win this second half to win the game. Because there is a drop. And it does happen around about that moment. Taylor going off for Bernabe, I think that was probably something that was arranged anyway because it was on the hour mark and just feeding him back into the team. The drop off is huge. It's the point now with Bernabe that I'd rather we've moved Scales to left back at that moment. I don't want to see Scales at left back because I think he's been pretty solid at centre back. But it's almost to the point where we need to move him there because he's at least got the physical presence and he's left-footed. And you'd bring on Nawrocki instead and put him in the defence because that goal that we lose, it's down to Bernabe. He's not a defender. He loses his man. He loses it's not even a physical challenge for the ball. He doesn't even challenge for it. And number one as a defender, when the ball's in the air, even if you don't think you've got a chance of winning, like you jump for it because you might put the boy off behind you. He doesn't do that. He gives him a free header. Joe Hart's got no chance. And yeah, again, you're spot on with it. If we lost a goal at any point in that 5 minutes injury time, we were not coming back. And as soon as that goal goes in, we're now resigned to it. you almost expect that it's going to happen, and you resign to it. And you see the players in the park, and they're resigned to it. No one wanted the ball in the 3 or 4 minutes that we started to play after that. We created nothing. The only other chance comes to Kilmarnock, and we've got to rely on Joe Hart getting down to make a save again. It's bizarre how we can, put in such opposite performances from 145 minutes to the next. And Brendan's got to do something to change that. As much as it's the players in the park and getting them in the right frame of mind, he's the one that's putting them out and giving them the instructions. We need to change something.
And the thing is, I mentioned this in January, Kevin. You can go all season and say we don't have the quality. I mean, what kind of message does that send to the players that are new in the building, right? You're not good enough, basically. However, you're then counting on them to do something. We've been talking about the wingers all season. We lost Jota, and we've actually brought in 4 wingers. So you lose one, you bring in 4. What kind of strategy is that? You lose one of absolute supreme quality, you bring in 4 of differing levels of quality. We could argue all day as to which ones are quality and which ones are not. But what I do know is you brought in Yang, Palmer, Tilio and Kuhn. Tilio's no longer at the club. He's away out on loan, probably never to return. Yang, Palmer and Kuhn, all on the park today. Which one gets pass marks, And you think to yourself, you got to replace quality with quality. That's only part of the problem. You still have a squad of players there, Kevin, like you say, that Brendan Rodgers has to be able to get a result at home against Kilmarnock. He has to be able to get a result against Motherwell, against St Johnstone. He's got to be able to do that, because if you don't win the league. You absolutely, it's as simple as that. So coming into this game, you can look at the last 9 results and you can make jibes about, we've only won 8 out of 9. Well, actually, you've won 8 out of 10. And if the competitor that's breathing down your neck wins 10 out of 10 or 9 out of 10, you're going to throw the league away. Now, at people say, it's too early, there's still 12 games to go. We fall into cliched nonsense at that stage, Kevin. We can only comment on what we're seeing. And what we're seeing at the moment is we're a point ahead, and Rangers play tomorrow at McDermott Park against a side that isn't great, against St Johnstone. So all they need to do is win and win 1-0 in the top of the league. You're then chasing it. And you can go on about mentality and all this kind of stuff. We, at half-time, were 1-0 up. We should have been a couple of goals up. And you're never, ever confident, Kevin, with a Celtic side, because if you're only a goal up, you know that you're susceptible to the goal that we conceded in that second half. A set piece. We were out-muscled. There's a lack of physicality, normally down our left-hand side. Bernabe, listen, you can stand there and pray for a VAR decision. No chance. You were weak. You were weak at the back post. You've not done your job. You've not defended. And he's never a defender in a million years. And in the last few games where he's been playing and people are saying you're being too harsh on him, no, you're not. You can see it. Sometimes he carries the ball. Sometimes he can create a chance. When we've got a free kick or a corner kick against us, Kev, you've got to be able to, as a professional footballer, defend that ball. And he doesn't. It's terrible. And I know we didn't defend the first header either, by the way. But at that moment, that's a pivotal moment where you've got to do everything in your power to win that. And you don't win it. And you're standing there like, it's okay, maybe VAR will get us off the hook. No, you've got to win the ball. You've got to win the game. And we failed to do it. It will be interesting to see and hear the post-match from Brennan, because it's a very difficult one to defend. And I'm not talking about the cross. I'm talking about the performance, Kev. A very difficult one. Sitting here, I'm finding it difficult to defend that in the second half. Mount Carath, thank you for supporting a Celtic state of mind. We couldn't deal with Kilmarnock's press. People didn't show for passes, so we had to punt it. It was so easy for them. We completely lost control in that second half. That moment, Kev, I'm going to go back on it. I'm going to go onto Celtic TV and watch it back. 54 minutes on the clock. And we had 3 guys no looking for the ball, no looking to press Kilmarnock. It's as if they didn't want possession. One of them was our captain. One of them was the best player that we've had all season. And the other was Yang. And none of them, and we're in the centre circle, wanted to take responsibility and drive forward and increase our gap between us and Kilmarnock. If you're 2-0 up, you're winning the game. but we just didn't show enough in the second half. We've got Mickey Boy 80, absolutely fuming, not surprised, Mickey Boy. I won't be wasting my time watching Celtic play this way. We struggle every week against teams with about 20% of our budget. Kilmarnock, basically, yeah, listen, they're fourth in the league. I know that they're having a very good season. I'm just having a look at the table at the moment. Yeah, there's fourth in the table. They're having a very good season. But you're up against Celtic, and you know that's 2 draws in the last 3 games, Kev, and it's hardly the stuff. I'm talking league games here. It's hardly the stuff of title-winning form, is it?
No, it's not. And probably if you were to look at that other game, the Aberdeen one, it's a bit of a carbon copy of what we've just seen today. Pretty good first half. Okay, in that game it was 0-0 at half time, and we've come back, but it was a decent first half, and then we fall off a cliff again in the second half. So that's Pittodrie, it's Rugby Park, the first time, or the cup game against them, league game, sorry, against Kilmarnock. It's St Mirren at home, I think it was, or was it Motherwell? Sorry, when we lost a late goal to draw 1-1. It's all these games. They're following that same pattern of we're doing pretty well in the first half, and then second half teams are coming out and pressing us, and we don't have an answer to that. We don't have a creative enough player in the midfield or front three that's unlocking defences on a regular basis. So we're only ever going in half time 0-0 or 1-0. And then in the second half, if we get pressed, we've got no answer. And we spoke about this guy before the game, Iwata. Put him in there at number 6, physical presence. I think that shows up a lot of the deficiencies in there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've brought on Bernardo. I don't think he offered anything when he came on. Not today.
And he missed a
But if
sitter.
you've got somebody in there in that number 6 who's just sitting there in front of the back 4, allowing your fullbacks to get up, allowing McGregor to go and do his stuff a wee bit further up the field, it would just make us so much more solid. It would give us that base to build on. But we don't do it. We try and persist with something that isn't working in the hope that it eventually does. And then 9 times out of 10, we get hit by a sucker blow and we've got no answer to it. Like you say, once you start to lower the tempo and drop back, it's very difficult to raise it back up again and to get going. And losing a goal in injury time for any team is usually a sucker blow that you very rarely come back from. It's just happening far too regular for us.
You know, the word quality, you can go back to all you want, Kev. When you've got the depth of the squad that we have, when you've got, as I say, 4 wingers coming in for 1 leaving and all this kind of stuff, you should have copious amounts of options. And my take on it, it's not a hindsight. I said it before the game. I just felt that, Kilmarnock are a physical side. Even the changes they made, they're bringing on physical players in Van Veen, and that type of player that knows the Scottish game. He'll grab a goal in the last 10 minutes. And we look weak. We look almost as if we lack belief, Kev, that we're going to be able to win this. And I've been talking all week about the kind of leadership of Callum McGregor. He was one of the guys that didn't want the ball 10 minutes into the second half. I've been talking about the leadership of Joe Hart, a couple of really good saves with Joe today, but you need to see it throughout the team. And we bring on Bernardo, and Bernardo has been a bit of an enigma as well. A couple of good games. He had a wee spell there against, obviously, Rangers. He was excellent, scored a great goal. But he comes on there, it doesn't affect it at all. Positively, it does not affect the game at all. Yang, looked direct, didn't affect the game. Kuhn came on, really didn't affect the game. In fact, there was a moment where if he had just lifted his head, he had 2 really good options in the middle where it's broken from down the right, and then you win the game. Ida, I thought it was maybe a mistake to take him off. We changed the shape and we just lost it. We looked predictable. And as I say, 90 minutes, when the 5 minutes was called, Kev, I thought we better hold on, because if they score, we're not coming back from it. And that comes down to not just character, but the quality that's on the park. And at the end of the game, there was a real distinct lack of quality on the park. Stephen Broadley, I'm going to throw it over to you guys in the comments. What do you make of that today? We really have blown it today, haven't we? 1 each with Kilmarnock at home. Today is the day we throw the league away, says Stephen. Well, you know, I'm pretty sure after the game we're going to be hearing a lot of people saying, "Oh, there's still 12 games to go. We've still to play Rangers twice. It's still in our hands." But you've seen in that second half there, Kev, you know, the importance of momentum, the importance of belief, confidence, playing with a rhythm. None of that in the second half. And if you're losing games or drawing games, I mean, there was boos. You could hear them echoing around the stadium. That can affect players as well, especially if the players have never been at a club like Celtic where you've got to win every single game. I've been talking about that all season. So you can say, oh, it's still in our hands. Listen, Rangers going top of the league tomorrow will be huge. It will be massive. There could be a sea change. And it's a sea change you might not come back from, Kev.
Yeah. So this is the difficulty about doing these live shows after the game, is I don't want to sound too contradictory to what I was saying before the game when I was kind of confident that we could win the match. But having watched that game today, and feeling like I've seen it a few times already this season, I'm now looking at the next 12 games. Of course, we could win them all. Are you confident that we'll win any of them? Like, really confident. So I'm not saying we're going to lose the games or we'll draw them all or whatever, but right now, you're not going into games being 100% confident that we'll walk away with 3 points. That's not a team that wins you the league. I fully expect that Rangers will go to McDermott Park tomorrow and win, and they'll go 2 points ahead. And then it is out of our hands, you know, because they've got the momentum, we don't. And we're struggling really badly just to put teams to bed, you know, to close games out. And again, you don't win leagues if you can't do that. So it's tough tonight. It's going to be tough.
Kev.
I look at the team and I still think there's lots of quality in there, to use that word, but they're missing a leader right now. I mean, that's the big one. I think Callum is a good leader, but there were moments today when, like you say, he didn't want the ball, other players didn't want the ball. Can't always just rely on one player to do that for you, to lead by example. You need others, and we don't have it at the moment, which is pretty sad to see. And sorry, if you look at the point that you're making about bringing in the 4 wingers, I mean, what are we even thinking about with that?
We've done the same with the centre halves, Kev. You know, we lost Starfelt.
Yep. You're sitting there going, Nawrocki's on the bench. Lagerbielke doesn't get a look in, but we've blocked a move for him, which is just bizarre again. If we don't rate him, get rid of him. Surely be ruthless that way. You look at the wingers though. Brendan Rodgers signed Kuhn. I'm not sure that he signed Yang or if that was something that was in the pipeline. But already he's playing Yang ahead of his own signing. I would have thought Kuhn would be the go-to player to come on. There's a real, I guess it's a lack of confidence as well throughout the team, and I don't think he helps it with some of his decisions that he makes. But yeah, listen, this is going to hurt tonight, and it will hurt even more tomorrow when I think we do go into second place. But we're going to have to really regroup the team will need to regroup. There will need to be some kind of home truths delivered within the dressing room just now and on Monday morning. Some backsides will need to get kicked, and we need to come back absolutely firing for the next 3 or 4 games and start to play like we know we can, or who we believe we can.
Who gets pass marks for you today, Kev?
Oh, sorry, what was that?
Who gets pass marks for you today in a Celtic jersey?
Who gets pass marks?
Yeah, I thought the delay was because you were struggling to figure out who gets pass marks.
Well, I am, to be fair. But Joe Hart, he's made 2-3 big saves in that game. To be fair, I'd probably say Scales and Welsh went bad. But basing it largely on the second half drop-off, there's no one else that really played a full game that's going to be worthy of a pass mark. There's a lot of 4s and 5s, maybe an odd 6, but the 6 isn't a pass for me. Joe Hart gets an 8 out of 10 because he's made a few really big saves.
It really is. It's frustrating. But, you know, even if there was a miracle tomorrow and St Johnstone were to win, And people might say that's a get out of jail. It makes no difference to me, Kev, because what happened today will happen again. This is the feeling I'm getting, It makes no difference because...
We do not deserve a get out of jail card tomorrow. We didn't deserve, even for that goal of theirs to go to a VAR check, that gave us a wee bit of hope that it might get disallowed. We didn't deserve it. We should be good enough to win that game without the help of a VAR to disallow their goal. And we should be good enough to be top of the table at the moment without having to hope and pray that we get a miracle at McDermott Park.
No, you're right. Defensively, Mintz says the DJ of choice. I'm struggling to disagree with that, especially when we changed shape in the second half. There was 2 opportunities to defend the move that resulted in obviously Kilmarnock equalising, and we failed to do it. We failed to do it, centrally, and we failed to do it at the back post. And it's been for me, it's been the story of the season. And we can identify it as fans watching the games, Kev, and it doesn't look as though we're identifying it as a football club, because it was quite clear that we really did have to bolster that, and it didn't happen. We came out of that January transfer window with Greg Taylor injured and Bernabe being the only option at left back, and that's not good enough. It's simply not good enough. It's miles from being good enough. AGSC Tech, Bernabe was horrendous for their goal. It is his fault. I blame Ange for signing him. I just think that we've got a situation now where we've been really poor in the transfer market in the windows for 2 seasons. It's 4 windows, absolutely dire. And the only first choice we've got out of the 4 windows is Alistair Johnston, who's injured. O's been at the club now for 13 months, hasn't staked a claim. You're watching that at the end, and I know you're frustrated at the end, but you're looking at Big O and you're thinking, it's a year and a month down the line now. When are you going to step up? It's not happened. You've got guys who are coming in the summer. It's not happened. We lost Moy. We brought in Kwon, Holm, and Bernardo. And you're talking about drops in quality. Not one of them's given us what Moy gave us. Not one of the defenders in Lagerbielke, Phillips, or Nawrocki gave us what Starfelt gave us. Not one of the wingers in Yang Palmatilio or Kuhn has given us what Jota gave us. There's a problem right there. And, that's 3 positions. And a lot of experience as well out the door, not replaced. James Livingston seems to be a fear in some of the players. Move forward, pass it back, move forward, pass it back. Chronic. That fear, James, did anyone else in the comments pick up on it? That fear where nobody wanted the ball. That is, that's a lack of courage for me. Terence, not a problem, mate. It's an emotional time when you drop points like that. Sorry, PJ, just anger at the board and the poor recruitment and easy acceptance of Brendan's return showed a lack of ideas to bring in someone new with different ideas. COVID season repeat. The thing I would say to Donny is Acsom has got a lot of different opinions, and not everybody wanted them back. If there's any of the Acsom troops in the comment section, they'll probably tell you that. Not everybody wanted Rodgers back. I did.
There's a blog on the website, I think, that proves that.
Yeah.
We didn't all want him back. I'm one of them. I said I wouldn't have him within 100 miles of Celtic Park because of the way he left.
Yep.
I can acknowledge he's a good coach, but at the time I wasn't over the way that he left us. So it's a false statement.
Where I am with this one, Kevin, though, is you come out of that January transfer window and you've got to make good with what you've got at that point. You don't have another option, So you've got a manager there who has got bags of experience, and we keep hearing about his man management skills. He's been talking about them this week with regards to the Lila Bada situation. The examples that's been given in the past, the players that he's had to have man management and one-to-one ability with, improving players. You've got a squad there, and if you want to break it down from Joe Hart at the back to your defensive qualities that we've got, that they weren't really on show today. Midfield, you've got Matt O'Reilly, most improved player at Celtic. It looks as though he's for me, running on empty at the moment. But it's almost as if there's a fear to actually rest a player like that, or a fear to rest a player like Greg Taylor against Bucky, which is where he got his injury. You go up top, Kyogo, obviously the quality's been there, but he's dipped, and then he's obviously came back up with his form. What I'm trying to say is we've got enough, Kev, to no look back and just say we've got enough to win this league. and then we go out there today, and those boos will be ringing in their ears. The DJ of choice, Bernaby, was mince, out-muscled at the back post, can't pass for toffee. And we've also got Taylor gave us angles to get out in possession, yeah. And it was so obvious when he went off in 60 minutes. Those angles weren't there. The options to actually play out from defence just weren't there at all. So what happened when Bernaby came on? And by the way, it's not about just one player. This isn't about me saying Bernaby's to blame for the entirety of that second half, because I don't think he is. Collectively, we were rubbish today. It was a really, really poor performance. John Collins, I don't know if it's John Collins, don't deserve to win the league playing like this. I'm finding it difficult to argue with that, Kevin. As hard as it is to admit it, I am finding it difficult to argue with John here. Enough is enough.
It's probably the most accurate comment that's come in all afternoon. We don't deserve to win playing like this.
You can't argue with it. Ewan Boy Martin, enough is enough. Rodgers has to go, as do the Laurels, to what a disaster we are raging. Right. You know, Ewan makes a point here. Right, and the point is, what do we do? As we're sitting here right now, a point ahead with Rangers playing tomorrow, and you know there's an inevitability about them going top tomorrow night. And when it happens, you are thinking, right, it's not about blame, but we've got to take responsibility as a football club. What do you do? Are there going to be changes? I don't think there'll be any changes between now and the end of the season. I think what we might get is an announcement that Mark Lovell has stepped down or moved on or got the super duper role at City or whatever, right? The City group, that is. I don't think there'll be any changes managerially. I don't think there'll be any changes boardroom level. Nothing will change between now and the end of the season, Kev. And I think my point that I was making earlier when we came out of that January transfer window was almost, we're just going to have to suck this up. But we should still have and should still have had enough to get us over the line. After today, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, I mean, the guts of the squad that we've got just now won a treble last season. So they should be good enough to see us through to the end of this season. And for being honest, they should be good enough to go and win the double from here, because there's a lot of good players there. But they're not performing to the standards that we know they can. And that's what gives you the doubts and the worries. In days like today, as John said, if we keep on playing like this, we're not going to win at anything this season. I don't. Yeah. Do I think there'll be changes or anything like that? Nah, I don't think there will be. You say Mark Lovell might get moved on, but I don't think that's going to be any big announcement. It will just happen. Rodgers, I think, will be here until the end of the season, or until it becomes obvious that we will win nothing. If that becomes the case, because I don't think he'll go before the end. So I think, yeah, we have to just kind of suck it up and take it through to the end of the season, and now hope for the best. We shouldn't be saying that. That board of ours is so happy when they look at the balance sheet that says we've got 70 million sitting in there. Don't care. What does that do? What's that in the pitch? It's nothing. Football clubs shouldn't be there to make a profit like that. Football clubs should be reinvesting that money to make sure that days like this don't really happen that often. And it's happened 3 or 4 times this season, which is too many.
Far too often.
Yeah.
Far too often, Kev. I'm going to bring in some more comments, because we've got almost 3,000 live on this stream here. And I always say this, I don't like cutting it off because people are frustrated. And often this is where you come to vent the frustrations. And sometimes it spills in and it gets a bit personal, but you know what? I've heard enough. I'm not going to get anything. Nothing's going to be taken too personally. Let's be honest. Craigie, at least we can't blame refs or VAR. Just not good enough. See, when the VAR came up, Kev, I'm sitting thinking we actually don't deserve this decision to go our way. And I looked at it, and I think Bernaby kind of motioned as if he had been shoved. Just win the header, son. Just win the header at the back post. Do your job. It's nothing to do. He's
off. You don't even have to do it. You just need to
match the boys' jump.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So it's just not good enough. Craig's right in what he's saying there. I'm not trying to paint a rosy picture here. Celtic were absolutely diabolical in that second half. And it's concerning that we've seen it so many times this season. The Jekyll and Hyde. you know, whereby you're looking at that first half, thinking to yourself, we probably should be a couple of goals up here. Why does it drop off? There needs to be a reason for it. So yeah, this is the frustration for me. Sometimes it's hard to put your finger on it. But we completely lacked identity. There was no style, no fluidity or rhythm in the second half. Kilmarnock, closed down everything. They looked far more likely to score. And as I say, at full time, when the 5 minutes were added on, I thought to myself, Killie score, we're in trouble. And so it proved. Walker post-match interview with Brendan Rodgers will be interesting. I'll be tuning right into that as soon as this is finished. Martin, 8-8-6-7, severely lacking in quality. No end product throughout the team. All seems to have forgotten how to shoot. Signing's been poor for the last 4 windows. Absolutely rubbish for the last 4 windows. And what happens is, looking forward, at the end of the season, you're left with all that. You've got a big bloated squad, Kevin, and you're left with all these guys who haven't been playing, haven't been performing. They're on decent wages. They're on decent contracts because we've been bringing them all in on 4 and 5 year deals. And the next manager comes in and they've got a right job on their hand, if that is the case. Ange had a massive job on his hands. And if we had done something in January, we might not have been having this conversation, Kevin. It wasn't too late in January. And you know what? People can say it's difficult to sign guys in January. If you are determined to get the job done at boardroom level, to get the signings over the line, you'll do it. But what we came away with was a winger who's not deemed good enough to start the game at the moment, and a striker who's on a short-term loan deal. That's what we came out of the transfer window with. Robert Hyland, we don't have any decent wingers at all, which for a team like Celtic is shocking. You're right, Robert. It's shocking, because we lambasted some of the guys that are no longer here on the wing, and you wonder, would they have done any worse than the guys that played today? No, they wouldn't have done. Boheed Bob, Taylor going off was the trigger for Kelly. It happened instantly. You're right. You could see it. The minute Greg Taylor went off, the lack of options was frightening to play it out a danger. Disgrace of a performance and team, says Martin Kay. This is how the vast majority, and there's a huge amount of people watching this, this is how a lot of people are feeling at the moment, Kev. EM, Ralston, Welsh and Bernaby in a back four is laughable. What's more laughable than that, EM? If you agree or disagree, what's more laughable than that? That's the strongest back four we had. We said it at the beginning of the game, Kev. That's more laughable than the guys that are wearing the jersey. The fact that we've got into a position where the defence isn't good enough. And Magnet 67, I'm an optimist. So am I. But we have just thrown the league away. We will not recover in a chase. It all comes down to mentality. And, the culture of that football club should be that everybody in the dressing room, Kev, knows what's due every single game, what you've got to put in, and when you hear the boos ringing around the stadium as they did when we beat Ross County 1-0, or when we've drawn one each, that's what playing for this club's all about. If you don't put in the effort, the application, and the performance, then that's what's going to happen. And if you're not happy with that, maybe you shouldn't actually be playing for a football club like Celtic, because we've got to win games like today. It's that simple as far as I can see. Saul Goodman, better call somebody. Tempting fate for too long, and this is the result. Kevin McCluskey, is there anything else you want to leave us with? Because, quite frankly, you can't sugarcoat what we've just seen today.
No, you certainly cannot. Let's go with two things here then. You're talking a lot about the mentality of things. I think everyone knows I'm a big Ange fan. I will, continue to say that. I love the guy. I thought he was great for us. If you look at him last season, or the last 2 seasons, as the leader, he was so energetic. He embodied everything that his team was. Like, he was passionate. He was defending the team. He was talking about the style of football, and it was always kind of blood and guts going forward, attack, and score. If you look at Brendan Rodgers, his mentality is completely opposite, or his demeanor rather. He seems to be a lot more subdued. His press conferences are a lot more tetchy than they were before. He doesn't seem to have the same vibe that he had when he was here first time, and it's not the same or anything like. And you can see that, and it's reflected in how we play. Last season, it was the rip-roaring, free-scoring Glasgow Celtic that we love. We were attacking, we were going for it. Now it's anything but. And to build on that one, my mate here has just sent me a text, something that's gone out on Twitter, that in 26 league games this season, Celtic have played 18 full halves without scoring. 18 full halves of football without scoring a goal. No wonder we're in the position we're in. Right. And if this is like public knowledge on Twitter, just regular guys like me and you looking and finding these kind of things out, surely in the club they know that. Surely they've seen the drop off in standards throughout games. And we absolutely only have ourselves to blame that we're in the position we're in.
No,
Because
you're right.
also, like one of the other commenters, I want to be an optimist as well. I'll look and go, we do still have the quality to win this league, but we've just made it 10 times more difficult than we needed to.
Yep, we have. We absolutely have. Bohi Bob, I agree with this, by the way. Ralston and Welsh were two of our best today. That's on the back of the comment about the defence that we had. And in particular, I thought Ralston didn't do much wrong today. Wardy, and he set up the goal, of course. We have just handed our biggest rivals. This is the bigger picture. A £60 million get out of jail card, unforgivable. This is the big thing. You win this league. You're going into a revamped, souped up Champions League competition, as Wardy says. And you've got to approach the winning of the league with that as your focus. So we bring in 11 players. How many of those 11 players are starters at this football club? Well, Palmer has been, mainly. Other than that, none of them. So I think that when you're looking at that, have we approached it? And we've approached it well, and we've approached it without being complacent? Or if you just hoped that Michael Beale's Rangers would capitulate, which they did. But they actually acted on it, Kev. They acted on it, and they got somebody in who was able to regroup the group of players that they had, and they've been winning games. And quite frankly, outside the two derby games, and there's no guarantees with those, they'll continue to win games. They'll go out there at McDermott Park tomorrow and they'll win that game as well. And if they don't, I'll be happy for you to clip this. But they will. They will win that game because, you know, the pendulum has swung this evening, and that's only ourselves to blame for that. We try to be optimistic on the show, 3,000 strong on the live stream. Thank you, every single one of you, for joining us. Yeah, we will be back on Monday no matter what. We've had worse performances. We've had worse results in all the last 4 years that we've been streaming on a daily basis and for every match day. But that's a sore one to take tonight. We'll lick our wounds, and we'll be back on Monday. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. And joining us again at 12:30 on Monday afternoon for a Celtic State of Mind.